What's going on, Summit Chasers? Very excited to bring you another episode of the Summit Chasers podcast, this time with a Mr. Marques Ogden. Very excited for you all to listen to this one. This dude, he was in the NFL for 6 years. He owned businesses, he learned a lot, and he overcame a lot. And his story it's super inspiring. He has a couple books. He is a 4-time best-selling author, keynote speaker, business owner, consultant, coach, all the great things. And we really got to dive into a little bit of where he came from, how he got to be where he was, and the things that he had to overcome in order to get here. And a lot of it's going to be super, super relatable. A lot of times we see these people, we see highlight reels all the time. That's all we see. We go on their YouTube, we go on their Instagram, and if we don't scroll enough, we don't see the hard work that they had to put in. They don't see the grind that they had to go through. And he really is honest and open about what he had to go through, even just what he had to go through 12 months ago. Going from an apartment to now owning his dream home, has a really cute dog. I got to meet him before the podcast, and he's doing amazing. And it's so good to see somebody who has the highlight reel, but is also very open, honest, and vulnerable with where he came from. And we talk a lot about communication, why communication on teams as a leader, as a business owner, manager, whatever, is so important and so impactful to the success of your business. And a lot of times we overlook that. We're so focused on the tactics. We're so focused on the revenue. We're so focused on whatever. But we don't focus on our communication. And if our communication as leaders, as visionaries, is not on point, it doesn't get the outcome that we want from the people on our team, then that's on us. And it is our fault if things fail, or it's our fault if people do not succeed. It's our fault if we do not succeed. So take a listen. I'm very excited for you to listen to this one. All of his links are going to be in the description down low. He has a podcast, again, his books, he has websites, keynote speeches, all that kind of good stuff. So please go check him out and enjoy the episode. I'll see you on the next one. So you were, let's start at the beginning. Not so humble. Well, no, I guess fairly humble beginnings, but tell us a little bit about who you are and where you grew up.
So I'm from Washington, D.C. I grew up in Washington, D.C. I went to elementary school, middle school, high school, college, all in D.C. I went to Stevens Elementary School in downtown D.C., went to St. John's College High School for middle school and high school. Then I was very fortunate. I got a full scholarship to play football for the Howard University Bison in Northwest D.C.
Beautiful, man. Who do you think was like your biggest positive role model when you were growing up?
Oh, without my dad. Well, two. I had my dad and I had my maternal grandfather. They were both huge in my life. My dad raised us when our parents divorced, and I was 8 years old, and my dad got full custody of me and my brother, Jonathan Ogden, former NFL athlete, first ballot Hall of Famer. And then our maternal grandparents were huge in our life. Like our grandmother and grandfather, they were always around doing stuff. They were huge in our life.
That's awesome, man. So what do you think was like the biggest, 1 to 3 takeaways or things that were instilled by you from the both of them?
Good question. So there's 3 big things, man. Number 1 is respect women. Number 2 is respect ourselves. And number 3 is education over sports. So learned that from a young age, growing up. And I always believed that even when I got divorced, right? It wasn't pretty, but, to the best of my ability, I always respect my ex and do the best I can, in that situation. I always respect myself. I was struggling with some issues last year, even about a year ago at this time. I was in a deep, dark place. Christmas was not, good for me last year. I didn't have a tree. I didn't have anything. I was just struggling mentally, all kinds of issues. And now I'm back, but I always respected myself in that regard, going forward. And then without education, right, Zach, I'm not where I am today as a speaker, a coach, consultant, podcaster, because the education was a huge part of me moving my life forward.
That's amazing, man. So just a year ago at Christmas, you were in a completely different spot than you are now.
Oh, absolutely. So I filed for divorce July of 2022, found some things out in my marriage that I was not really going to accept. And then I filed, and I was forced to move out after we had our first mediation in November of 2022. So I moved into my new apartment November 15th, which was actually my birthday, 2022. And it was a struggle. I had my daughter for Thanksgiving, but my oldest was in college and she didn't even come home. And then For Christmas, I didn't have her on Christmas Eve. I didn't have her for Christmas morning. Actually, I did go to my ex's house on Christmas morning, and then I took her, and then I had her at my apartment. But Zach, to be totally honest, man, like I hated living in that apartment. I mean, I hated it. It made me feel like a fraud, made me feel like a phony. I tell people all the time, 3 things hold people back from being successful: fear, self-doubt, and or imposter syndrome. And I was suffering from a massive case of imposter syndrome last year, because I'm like, well, how am I supposed to be coaching people, helping people? And I'm in this apartment. It's dark, it's dingy, it's furnished with old furniture. My refrigerator is black and just outdated. My kitchen is small. I don't have anything that's good for me. I mean, like, how am I supposed to like coach anybody? How am I supposed to lead anybody? And so literally this time last year, I was really in a real bad place. I had my daughter at this time, because I had her for the second half of the Christmas break. But even then, man, I did a lot of going out. I did a tremendous amount of drinking. I did a tremendous amount of, different women just looking for affection all the wrong places, because I was just like so mad. I was so frustrated. I was so like, how did I get here? Like, how did this happen? And so if you're listening to this, man, what a difference a year can make. Because again, I made the decision mid-January of this year to get my life on track. I worked hard. I leaned into our podcast, and I really delved into what we're up to, what we're doing now. And it really allowed me to help a lot more people. It allowed me to be much more financially sound. And then I was able to buy my dream home 6 months ahead of schedule. So I was going to try to have a home by November 15th of 2023, bought my dream home May 15th of 2023. And now I have a house where my daughter can come, and she has her own room, her playroom. My stepdaughter's in town for the Christmas break. She's actually going to be babysitting my daughter tonight, so I can go out and play poker. That's one of my big things. Yeah. Now, she came up for Christmas yesterday, so that was good, getting back into that routine. But if you're listening and you're going through hard times, let me tell you, like I said, 12 months ago, I was literally in one of the worst places of my life. And I was like, how in the hell am I going to get out of here?
So that's so powerful, first of all, and congratulations. I know that you're not done. I know the mentality that you probably have. I'm sure that we share a lot of it, but man, congratulations. And for the people listening, because there's so many people out there, in whether it's in business or sports or life in general, whatever it is, and I love those 3 things that you said. I don't love them, but they're so true: the fear, doubt, and imposter syndrome. And in business, there's a lot of business owners that have that same type of feeling, right? I don't have an MBA. I didn't have a family business, to learn all the ins and outs growing up. So that they suffer with a lot of that. So where would you suggest that they start? They're where you were, similar to where you were 12 months ago, right? Where do they start to get out of that? Because sometimes that's the hardest part, is just to start.
All right, so there's 4 B's to get to the 5th B, which is victory. Okay, but if you're listening, the first place to start is the first of the 4 B's. You have to visualize what you want. You don't have to have an MBA. You don't have to have a college, degree. Does that stuff help? Sure it does. Sure it does. It helps you with feeling more confident. Some people love it on paper. It can help you, but it doesn't mean you can't have what you want in life without that stuff, right? You can have it, but you gotta visualize what it is that you want for yourself. Like I tell everybody, man, the first thing that you have to do, your mind has to believe it and has to see it and has to focus on it. If you don't do those things, then what happens is your mind starts to doubt yourself. It starts to think about, well, what haven't you done? What are you not doing? I always thought this with every client that I coach, right? Number 1, what are your 3 biggest strengths? Tell me that. Then number 2, what do you want to improve on over the next 6 or 12 months? Tell me that. That is set up on point, because it is exactly what I am going to do with you. But if you don't tell me what your positives are, then it's going to be hard to feel confident that you can move into what you want to be a better speaker, grow a podcast, monetize a podcast, you name it. I mean, again, this is the day after Christmas, and I'm sitting here at 10 o'clock doing a podcast because that's the type of work ethic that I have, right? That's the type, that's what I do. I was working briefly yesterday on Christmas because I had my daughter until noon, and then my ex got her. So her mom got her. So now I worked on some things yesterday on Christmas, and then I just took the afternoon off. But again, I tell people, if I didn't visualize, again, did I know what the house was going to look like? No. Did I know where it was going to be? Absolutely not. Did I know I was going to buy brand new? I wanted to, but I didn't know if it was going to work out. I mean, man, but Zach, I bought a $500,000 house by myself 6 months ahead of schedule with no W-2, no real W-2. I'm an entrepreneur, but no real W-2. So they had to go through my profit and loss statements, my books, my bank account. I mean, like literally, it was one of the most extensive periods of my life trying to buy this lovely home that I have. But if you're listening, right, you can also do it, but you have to visualize it. You have to believe it. First things first.
I love that. And a lot of people get stuck at that point because they think, and I love the point that you made, you didn't know what the house was going to look like. You didn't know what exactly you were going to be doing on a day-to-day basis, but you knew how it was going to feel. You knew what type of life you were going to live, and you visualized that. And this is absolutely some of the best advice that you could get, because this is a guy who is six years in the NFL, 5 or 6 years.
6 years,
NFL. Yeah. And then when you got out of that, you started a business, right? And then the learning lessons that came from that, right? And then down and out, and then to come back and be who he is today. I mean, this is the type of stuff. This is the type of person you want to listen to when it comes to overcoming, when it comes to pushing through, when it comes to achieving, visualizing and being able to achieve that, even though you're discrediting your past experience or discrediting your skill set, right? So talk to us a little bit about that. So you went from six years in the NFL. You played for the Titans, Bills, Ravens, and the Jaguars, correct? Beautiful. And then after that, you started a business, a construction business. So those two events, we'll say, there's the ability to learn a lot of life lessons in there. So what did you take away from 6 years in the NFL, starting a business, right? And then I'll let you tell everybody kind of how that went, and then to using that to do what you're doing now.
So the NFL taught me a lot about discipline, taught me a lot about focus, taught me a lot about how to bounce back, but also as a former offensive lineman, how to work with the team. Because if 5 guys, sometimes 6 with the tight end, we have to work together in order to make lanes for the running back, give the quarterback time to throw the ball. So it's a team sport. And then when I got into construction, I got a business partner, and I was very humble in the beginning, very appreciative, very much just all about, other people. I was all about our clients. I was all about value, and we were killing it. And we became the largest African-American owned subcontracting company in the area of site work, and also did a lot of real estate in the Baltimore City and state of Maryland area for 2 years. And we were just dominant. We worked for all the major GCs, developers, anything in town that needed minority work for site work, we were always getting it. But unfortunately, like I tell people, the success that I had came at a price of me not knowing how to handle it. And I got real arrogant. I got real ego driven. I got real focused on self and just money, women, fame, nightlife. And unfortunately, Zach, I ended up making some really bad mistakes business-wise. I pushed away my best employees because I was just so self-centered, created a super toxic work environment, and I ended up losing everything in 2013 because of my attitude, my ego, my bravado. And I ended up going into a deep, dark depression after filing a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, home foreclosed on, both cars repossessed in the same day, moved to Raleigh with only $400 to my name, and I had to start over from complete rock bottom as a result of my ego and not being a very humble, appreciative individual.
So out of that, so first of all, thank you for being so honest with that. Not a lot of people would would be honest about that type of stuff. What, having gone through that, what would you say now that you're working with other businesses and business owners and executives and all this kind of stuff, what would you say is the biggest, if you had to put down one or two big learning lessons that you take from that and you give it to them, what would those be?
The main lesson as a business leader, business owner, anyone that leads and or serves and leads people, the minute you stop listening to your employees or the people that you're leading, it's the minute they're going to stop talking to you. And the minute they stop talking to you and giving you advice, you are losing leverage in your business. As a result of that, you will end up hitting rock bottom and losing it all. Or worse yet, you'll end up in business and you'll just always do just enough to get by. And by the time you realize that you couldn't get to the level of success and prosperity because of your ego, it's going to really push you into a bad spot. So if you're listening to this great episode, never, ever stop actively listening to people as a business owner and or business leader.
100%. I couldn't agree with that more. Communications are one of our biggest assets. It should be one of our highest skill. I always say, like, if you ever played video games and we have, like the skill bars, right? And you're like trying to develop your character. If you're a leader, your communication skill, that should be one that's always on top, right? Because that's how you listen. It's how you get the best out of people. It's how you get a point across. It's how you create outcomes, right? So let's say you're somebody who identifies or maybe doesn't even know if they're a great communicator. What do you think is a good place for them, or where do you think is a good place for them to start?
Honestly, you need to talk to the team that you're working with, right? Ask them, how am I at listening to you and your thoughts and your ideas and your innovative strategies and what you think makes sense and what you think is going to work, right? You have to involve your team. You have to involve your people. Otherwise, how are you going to know how they feel? So if you're listening, be sure to get recon and ask people that you're leading, that you're serving, what they think about what you're doing and get their honest opinion. And then that will start to lead you down the path of becoming a better leader, a better listener, and a better communicator that your team actually wants to talk to and or work with.
So what would you, and I 100% agree with that, and that candid conversation, it should happen. I always say, like, some of the best attribute a team can have is the ability to have a constructive conflict, to have those kind of conversations, right? So let's say, and a lot of leaders, that's going to be tough for them because I don't know if they're going to like the answer. They're not going to like it. So I think their ego. So to your point before, put ego aside, you have to be able to take those hits, or else you're not going to make it. Like you said, you risk losing everything. So for those that fear that, so what type of I guess like, would you do it in a meeting? Would you bring all your leadership team in and have it just with them? Would you address the entire company? How would you again, like, tangibly, how would you go about doing that, having that conversation?
So if I was people that are listening, I would call a meeting with my senior leaders in the organization. And then at that meeting, let them know what needs to be done. And then involve them in the process of what they think should happen. Get their input, right? Because here's the thing. You could talk to people one-on-one, but the problem with that is that one-on-one, people aren't going to be able to have dialogue and share ideas that might make sense for the entire organization. So if I were you, I would call a meeting with my senior leaders and then have an open forum dialogue conversation. And then if you're a big enough company, from that meeting, have your senior leaders get it down to the mid-level managers, to the managers, then down to the frontline workers, right? And then kind of go there. But if you're listening to this, really and truly be sure to get your senior leaders on the same page. Then it goes down to the level managers, then to your managers, and then to your frontline workers.
100%. And I asked that because I'm sure that there's a lot of business owners CEOs, whatever, that would say, okay, I need to have this conversation. Let me send out an email. I don't really feel like having this conversation today. Or I'll just pull one person into my office, then I'll let them kind of spread it around the grapevine. No, bring your people into a room, bring your senior leaders, bring your most influential people in your company into a room, have that conversation. Because I'm assuming if you're not a great communicator, they are also not great communicators amongst themselves, at least about the right things, right? If you're a bad communicator, they're probably great at communicating how bad of a communicator you are, but not about actually solving company problems and issues and forecasting and coming up with ideas and opportunities type of thing. So bringing them in and allowing that constructive conflict. I love that. So you wrote a book, Sleepless Nights. Is that what it's called? I got that right?
I have so I have I'm a well, I have 4 books. I've authored 2, Sleepless Nights, my first book, and then the Success Cycle, a second book, and then I co-authored. I have a chapter in a book called Pivots, Persistence, and Game Changers. I have another chapter in a book called The Leadership Volume Principles. So all 4 are bestsellers. So I'm technically a 4-time best-selling author, but I'm twice best-selling by myself. And then twice when I co-authored a best-selling book.
I love it. So, but Sleepless Nights was your first one, right? That's the one that
Correct.
kind of okay. That was a pivotal part of you kind of getting to where you are right now. Was that book?
Correct.
So, tell me a little about well, first of all, the title. I'm sure that some people can relate to the title, but where did the title come from, and what was the premise of that book, and why did you write it?
So the title came from all the sleepless nights I had when I moved from Baltimore to Raleigh, just trying to get anything going. Even when that book got published, I still had not had my first paid speaking job. I had a bunch of free jobs, but never had a paid speaking job until April 2016. The book was published in October 2015, and actually the book helped us to get our first paid speaking job with Miller Mott College for their 100th commencement graduation keynote speaker. And I remember literally not having enough gas to get down to that job, and I was hoping and praying that they were going to be able to pay me a check where I could deposit it and be able to grab $20 to get gas to get back home. And I had never been paid for a job before, so I didn't know the protocol. I didn't know how to ask. I didn't know what to do. But luckily, after doing my speech, which I look back on, I was really horrible at. I mean, I was just sweating the whole time, stammering. People thought I was great. I thought I was really horrible compared to who I am now. But that was 8 years ago. I remember that when I sat down after the speech, there was a little bag underneath my chair. I remember there was some little things like a middle of my cup, a shirt, and an envelope with my check in it. So I was like, thank God I can get home. So again, I remember that, but the book really helped to tell the story of what I had gone through between 2000 and, well, actually really Caden 2000, well, actually growing up and then football, then my construction, but it really talked about losing everything and then coming down here to Raleigh, trying to start over and having a bunch of sleepless nights as I was trying to get my life back on track due to financial ruin and all those kind of things I had going forward.
And I brought that up because and I don't want to speak for you, but it seemed, again, just from the research that I had done, that was a huge pivotal decision that you made, was the book. Is that what allowed you to get that first job? That's what allowed you to get the money to get home, to put the gas in your car to get home, and then kind of help you get that kind of flywheel momentum that you have now to get to where you are today. So sometimes it's just it's that persistence and then that one decision. So it's saying yes to a lot of stuff until you don't have to say yes to a lot of stuff. So from there, you're doing your speaking. When did you shift from speaking to doing business consulting?
I started doing business coaching and consulting in 2018.
Okay.
And that really started to pick up as a result of our speaking. We made some great partnerships. We got some really great traction, and that really helped to elevate us. So we started to get that part of our brand going in 2018.
Gotcha. Okay. So what does that look like now? So you're still doing the speaking, right? And I want to get into how you improved in your speaking, because I watched some of your keynotes that you have online, and you're a very good speaker. So to think that you were ever bad, and everybody was bad at something once, and then today we see highlight reels, right? So it'd be interesting to kind of hear that. So as far as your consulting and that kind of stuff, what does that look like now? So what do you focus on with businesses? What type of businesses, or what type of executives?
Well, it's a lot of corporate organizations, finance, real estate, insurance, tech. We do once a month Zoom calls with our clients, with groups. So like I've done manufacturing, I've done food service, I've done real estate, I've done, finance-based stuff. And we have a group call on Zoom with their team members, again, either senior leaders, mid-level managers, and we're addressing problems in the organization, either culture, marketing and sales, communication, enhancing the organization, all that kind of stuff. So it's been a real big facet to that. And we've been very fortunate to have some great clients there. And then our business coaching is just more one-on-one with people, where it's clients that buy either a 6-month package or a 12-month package. And we have weekly calls, half an hour, go over business strategy, mindset enhancement. Some people want to grow a podcast. We want to monetize a podcast. It varies. And so as a result of that, we have different facets, in that regard.
So a lot of different industries. So
yes.
Manufacturing, finance, real estate. So how different is it working with, especially in the leadership, like higher level, right? Or you're kind of looking from a 30,000 foot view in some of those. What are some of the differences, and what are some of the similarities of working with the different industries at that level?
Some similarities are a lot of people have problems with communication and culture and enhancing their ability to connect with different people within their organization. And then things that are different are just the lingo, how they talk to clients, how they talk about different things. Some businesses are young, so it's not going to be as much, things of that nature. Some companies are going to be older with more red tape to kind of work through. So it always depends upon, the industry and all that kind of stuff. So it varies in that regard.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I asked that, because that's one thing that I noticed too, working with a lot of different industries, is the big picture problems are usually very similar, and but it's just the words they use are a little bit different. So everyone always thinks, okay, our industry is so much different than this, but usually like the core root, like the symptoms are a little bit different, right? But the core cause of the problems, they're usually fairly similar, right? They're not as different as they like to think. I mean, and that's just human nature. We all think that we're innately extremely different. In a lot of ways we are, in a lot of ways we're not. So shifting over to your speaking, you were bad at speaking, and now you're really good at speaking. How did you get really good at speaking?
Just practice, man. And then I went to two things happened. One, I got mentored by Mel Robbins, who is the top keynote speaker, female, most highly paid in the country, maybe in the world. And she's one of the best in the best, period. I went to her studio in Boston in 2018, late February, to be interviewed by her, to be on her audiobook, Kick Ass with Mel. Meeting her really helped to change my life. And then I ended up going to a program like a week later that year, so March of 2018, through the NFLPA. It's called NAPSA, National Athletic Professional Success Academy. And that really helped to change my ability to keynote better, to communicate better, taught me how to use football knowledge and prowess and turn into corporate lingo and corporate dialogue. And so between Mel Robbins and then my coach, Brad Mitchell, who founded NAPSA, it really helped me become a better speaker, communicator, helped me better with, how I would talk to people, what I put out on social, my interaction, our newsletters, our blogs, how to build the right team. And now here we are. We've already got 5 speaking jobs set up for 2024. I've got one job with Taylor Morrison, who is the 4th largest custom home builder in the country, doing that job for them on the 16th of January. Then I just got booked for Center Space Homes on February 22nd in Minneapolis. So the job for Taylor Morrison is going to be virtual from my table. Then I've got the job for Center Space Homes in person in Minneapolis in February. Then I got to go to Cabo in March for 1,000-mile travel. Then I've got 2 jobs in April in Des Moines with Farm Bureau Insurance. And the other one was going to be Midwest Oncology. We're trying to figure out all the logistics of that stuff now. And again, very fortunate that people know our work. We're getting out there more, doing more podcasts. Our podcast is crushing it. And so now people bring us in, and we were actually ranked the number 4 out of 10 business speakers, top business speakers in North America. The list had Magic Johnson 1, Kevin O'Leary 2, Robert Kiyosaki 3, had me, our brand 4. We had on the list also Lloyd Grenier from Shark Tank. We had on Duncan Wardell from Disney. Tony Robbins was on the list. And so now we were ranked number 4 out of the top 10 business speakers in North America. It was on MSN about maybe 2 weeks ago. So we have that article. So we're reaching out to people, doing outreach, blogs, newsletters, you name it. We're tying in that piece to kind of help show where we were when we started, when nobody took our phone calls and who we were, to where we are now as a speaker.
There's some big names on that list. Like you're competing with the Gary V's, Alex Hormozzi's, Tony, like you said, Tony Robbins. Like you're competing with some big names. So that's amazing. That's amazing, dude. So I got out of that. There's three main things. Do more stuff, right? So just do it, right? You just don't be afraid to fail, right? That's part of it. Is find a mentor, right? And then give your past experience credit. Because the one thing that I love that you said is you kind of used a lot of what you learned in football and then catered some of that lingo. Because again, it's a lot of it, like the goal is the same. We work as a team and we're trying to get a result, right? Business. You work as a team, you're trying to get a result. You're just using different words, right? Different words, and you're, dotting different I's and crossing different T's, really, right? So that's absolutely love that, Marques. But this is an amazing conversation, dude. You're an amazing dude. I'm really happy. You're one of the guys I talk to, and I'm like, or even I just find, I'm like, I'm glad you exist, because there's so many people that need what you say and need what you do and need who you are, right? So I'm honored to have you on the show. So I always ask this question to everybody, but what is the next for you, Marques? What is the next summit that you're chasing right now?
We are really working hard with my business partner, Victor Garcia, and Dennis Green. Dennis is my podcast production partner. He's amazing. Victor is my business partner out of the San Francisco area. We're creating like an online podcast profit workshop, trying to help people know how to produce a podcast, how to brand it, how to really run it, how to make money off of it, how to scale it. And we've had very great success. We have our first cohort program, 2-day intensive in January. We've done 2 workshops. I think we've had we're only going to accept 10 people. I think we already have 7 that have signed up. And it's $6,800, which lasts you basically about 3 months between production with Dennis, then having like a post Facebook group, and then the branding and the how to make a sensational offer, how to do market research, all these other aspects. And it's been phenomenal for our brand. So we really want to get that going because we want to help as many people as possible grow a podcast, monetize at the same time. As that grows, it'll help give me my time back to do more, more speaking if I want, or and I can be more selective in that regard.
I love it. That's amazing. And then from here, you kind of already did it, but take a minute, whatever you got to plug, whatever you have coming up, let everybody know.
Yeah, greatest place to find me is we have an app, the Marques Ogden app. So MarquesOgden. All you got to do is just go to your Apple or Android to the App Store, type in my name, it'll pop straight up. It has great exclusive content there where we're trying to encourage people, getting people inspired and really excited about what they're doing. So go check us out there. You can also go to our link, Marques.360. Marques360.com. So Marques360.com. You can go check out our blogs, newsletters. You can check out testimonials, our website, you name it. So again, either Marques360.com, or you can just go to our app, Marques Ogden, on any app store, any phone, and we'll pop straight up.
Beautiful, everybody. Thank you so much for being on the show, Marques. And obviously, I'll have all that stuff linked below. I probably already said that in the beginning, but I'll link all that stuff below so you can find him, make it easy to find him. I highly suggest checking him out, checking out his podcast. What's the name of your podcast again?
It is called Get Authentic with Marques Ogden. We are 18 months old as of December 22nd. We're ranked in the top 1% in the world most popular podcast. We've secured dozens of amazing sponsors, and we're only about 2 points away from being a top 0.5% most popular podcast worldwide.
Let's get him there. Everybody go there. Obviously, I'll link that again at the bottom there. Go check him out. Marques, thanks again, brother.
Appreciate you having me on, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Summit Chasers podcast. I really hope that you enjoyed, you were inspired, you learned something that you can use to go and chase whatever your next summit may be. Be sure to like and comment your takeaways from the episode below. Also, follow us on all social media platforms under Summit Chasers Network. And if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to turn on your notifications so you can be notified when we drop new content like how-to videos, business best practices, motivation, and personal development strategies. And until next time, keep chasing your summit. I'll see you on the next one.